Good evening and welcome to the Expressions Digital Director's Cut featuring the Harpur Studio Jazz Band. I'm the show's producer, Andy Piak, and I'm broadcasting live from the WSKG Digital Studios. Tonight, we are going behind the scenes of our latest Expressions episode, which featured this talented ensemble from Binghamton University. We'll talk to the group's founder and director, Laurence Elder, as well as some of the musicians. We'll also show you two performances that had to be cut from the broadcast episode. Now, don't fret if you missed the program, since you will have a chance to view it following this live stream when we provide a link in the chat box. And you can also use this chat box to ask a question about the program or to any member of the jazz band, and we'll do our best to answer it in the next hour. Well, I think it's time to bring in our first guest of the evening, director of the Harpur Studio Jazz Band and a very talented musician in his own right, Professor Laurence Elder. Professor, welcome back to the program. Actually, your second appearance here on the Director's Cut. Welcome back, my friend.
Good to see you.
And congratulations on making it through another semester at the university. I'm sure this is probably always one of your favorite parts of the year. Well, right when it ends.
it's exciting, everything we do, but yeah, when it ends, it's kind of nice. We get to sort of take a collective breath and, look forward to the summer.
Well, why don't we start, if you can just give our audience a little bit of background about yourself and how you ended up here at Binghamton University.
So, professional musician for many years, born and raised in New York City. I played in various groups and bands and kind of fell in love with jazz in my late teens, early 20s, ended up going to music school, being a jazz pianist for many years, and then really wasn't until my 30s that I started writing songs that had lyrics and didn't really have a plan for who was going to sing them. So by default, it ended up being me. So the next thing you know, I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm living in Miami. I went to grad school there. And long story short, I wanted to get back to the Northeast to be closer to my family. So I came back to the Northeast. My dad was living in Binghamton, so I came to Binghamton, not really knowing anybody here about 10 years ago. And, a few doors opened through just networking with local musicians and whatnot. And the next thing you know, I was teaching at Binghamton University, and the rest is kind of history.
That's right. I mean, I'm surprised you didn't move back to the Northeast because of the weather, considering you were in Miami. So that's the one surprising part about that story, I think.
Yeah, I just wanted to freeze again,
So when you started teaching at the university, there was no such thing as the Harpur Studio Jazz Band, correct?
That is correct, yeah.
So what was the impetus for you to begin this group?
Well, I think it had long been a vision of the jazz department to want to have a second band. The Harpur Jazz Ensemble is the main ensemble that has been in existence for decades, originally started by Al Hom, and then continued by Michael Carbone, our director of jazz studies for 25 years. And that's the principal group. But at the time, the chair of the department, as well as Director Carbone, came to me and asked me if I wanted to do a jazz band. And I think the idea was that we would, have something that was maybe a bit of a contrast from the big band. So the big band is a traditional 18-piece jazz ensemble, performs, a lot of traditional repertoire as well as modern stuff. Studio Jazz Band is more of a medium-sized group, has a little bit of a different type of a flexibility, a little bit more of an emphasis on post-bop and funk and fusion and Latin jazz. So they complement each other really well, but it really kind of that's how it kind of came about there.
Well, I know one of the interesting things that you like to do with the group, and this is kind of what led to your appearance here on Expressions, was that in addition to all the university recitals that you play each semester, is you want to give your students and musicians an opportunity to play kind of outside the usual university setting. And here we see a picture of you performing just at the end of last semester at Atomic Tom's in downtown Binghamton. Like, imagine seeing college students at a downtown bar. I can't even imagine. So can you kind of talk a little bit about your theory about wanting to provide your students with that type of experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all about connecting with community. And, I think that more and more there seems to be a real desire and an emphasis and a focus on the importance of our school and our music department doing things that help connect us with the community and giving the community members a very special experience, but also the students a very special experience. So it's like a reciprocal type of thing that's just win-win for everyone. And, as much as we can produce really great concerts on campus, and we have many, many throughout the year, I think there's some folks that aren't necessarily going to make it to those concerts. And so by going out into the community, we're kind of like meeting people where they are, increasing the visibility and the awareness, at the same time giving the students like some real world experience in these different types of venues, which is a blast for them. So it's kind of a win-win that way.
Well, later on, we are going to talk to some of the musicians, and I look forward to asking them what they think of these special concerts as well. But that kind of leads back to your appearance on Expressions. I think it was close to a year ago when we first met. And my initial idea for the group was for you to appear on our Expressions Songs for the Seasons program, which is our, every year WSKG records a batch of holiday tunes that we air right around Christmas time. And here we go. Here's some footage of your performance last year on Songs for the Seasons. When we first met, I have to admit, I don't think you were crazy about the idea of having your kids and musicians learn Christmas music in September, which is obviously when we need September and October, when we need to record these programs in time to edit for the broadcast. So we kind of did some, I guess, a little bit of horse trading, and you agreed to do the holiday show if I agreed to feature you guys on a regular episode. And I think it worked out great. We had a great holiday performance. And I will say, if anyone in our audience has the inclination to listen to holiday music in the middle of the springtime, we will post a link to this program in the chat box as well at the end of the program. But I don't know, Professor, maybe you can kind of talk about like what you were thinking when you first met with us. I believe we were connected by flutist and fellow BU Professor Jeannie Sperber, who appeared on an Expressions episode last season.
That's right, absolutely. She was the connection, and kind of put us together, which we really appreciate, of course. But yeah, I think I quickly warmed up to the idea. I think I just had to get used to it, and I had to also think about what the reactions of the students were going to be when I said, okay, so we need to learn half a dozen Christmas songs by October 19th, because and then I think we just had to get used to the idea that, okay, so we're recording in October for the Christmas show that's going to get broadcast in December, but we're recording in December for the show that's going to get broadcast in the spring.
That's right. Yeah, we re-recorded the program that we just premiered on December 3rd. So yeah, if anything like that, that's when you would naturally think, okay, that's the time to record the holiday music. But unfortunately, that's not the way it necessarily works in TV. But you were able to provide our studio audience with an encore performance of one of your holiday tunes. So in that way, it did work out a little bit.
We had to throw one. We had to throw at least one, and I mean it was December. Yeah.
Right, for sure, for sure. Well, I think it's about time that we take a look at one of the tunes that did not make. Oh no, wait, I'm getting ahead of myself, Professor. We have to introduce the members of the ensemble. I mean, what am I doing here? I mean, I know you're the director, but what I did is I put together some graphics. So we're just going to kind of do like a baseball lineup here. And we're just going to kind of go over each of the members. And if you want to just give a quick, if embarrassing story about each one of them, I mean, that's fine with me, wow. Professor. So if we want to,
I don't know. We'll see.
Here we go. First on the piano, Elias Loomer, I believe. I'm just going to let you say the names so I don't mispronounce them.
That is Elias Loomer. Yep. He's a great pianist with us for many years. Emmanuel Fuentes, guitar. Ben Hayduke.
That's some great bass face right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that's Max Platy on
And-
the upright bass.
and Max
that's
will
a
be-
good face. That's a good bass.
That's a
face,
pretty good
too.
bass face as well. Max will be showing us that bass face himself very shortly.
That's Chris Dennison, drums and percussion. Jessica O'Keefe, she's one of our graduating singers. I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but so is Elias Loomer, also one of our graduating singers. So
Were these members of the band like for their entire run at the university, or do you usually just pick them up for a couple of years?
Many of them, I call them lifers. They end up coming and they stay for their whole time. Jessica was definitely one of the longest running members, and so was Elias, for that matter. He was in the band for, I think, 5 or 6 semesters, as was she. Yeah. And there's Lucas Rogan, drums and percussion.
Yep, he'll be joining us in a little bit as well. Lucas, I have to say, he was the first. I believe he was the first to arrive at each recording, and I, as the director, I take special notice of that. So well done, Lucas.
Probably because of all those drums you got to set up.
Yeah, that's true. He had to load all his drum stuff in. He didn't have a choice.
Ben Sharple's trombone. Yep. And he's still in the band. Or was as of the last semester. Josh Clinton, tenor saxophone, also a very talented piano player who plays in our. Some of these people play in both our bands, both the Harpur Jazz Ensemble, the big band, as well as our band. And Josh is one of those people. He also plays piano very well. So he plays piano in one band and saxophone in our band. Adam Hess, alto saxophone. Tom Eaton, another one of our graduates. Sorry to see him go, but he's a great trumpet player.
Yeah, he put a lot of flair into his solo during the performance for sure.
George White, also on trumpet.
And Liam, your multi-instrumentalist, played at least 3 instruments. I might have even forgotten one during the performance. So
I think you got the main ones though, for sure. He's his principal instrument is Barry sax and plays that on most of the songs. We almost always have been able to find, ever since he started bringing the EWI in, the electronic wind instrument, we almost always would find a song for him to perform on. And then also some auxiliary percussion like the shekere.
And I will definitely, please, everyone needs to stick around for the end of the program. I'm just going to leave it at that. That's what we call a tease in the broadcasting industry.
All right. And there's Angela Acevedo, our wonderful vocalist who completed 3 semesters in Studio Jazz Band.
Now,
and also a graduating senior.
Now, do you always work with vocalists, Professor, or is that more of just a semester by semester basis?
We have carried a vocalist for pretty much the whole time we've had Studio Jazz Band. Yeah, we've almost always had one. Maybe not the first semester or 2. We were sort of kind of getting on our feet, but yeah, we do.
Well, now I think it's time to play one of the songs that did not make the broadcast version of the program. And we did record 2 songs with Angela during your Expressions performance. Frank Sinatra's I Get a Kick Out of You, which can be seen on the broadcast version, and Cole Porter's Love for Sale, which we are going to see right now.
Great.
Appetizing young love for sale. Love that's fresh and slightly spoiled. Love that's only slightly soiled. Love for sale. Who would buy? Who would like to sample my supply? To pay the price for a trip to paradise. Love for sale. Let the poets pipe of love in childish ways. I know every type of love better far than they. If you want the thrill of love, I've been through the meal of love. Old love, new love, everything but true love. Love for sale. Appetizing young love for sale. If you want to try my ways, follow me right up the stairs. Love for sale. The poets pipe along in their childish ways. I know every type of love better far than they. If you want the thrill of love, I've been through the meal of love. Old love, new love, everything but true love. Love for sale. Appetizing young love for sale. If you want to try my ways, follow me right up the stairs. Love
Harpur Studio Jazz Band performing Love for Sale on the Expressions Digital Director's Cut. Time to talk to a couple of the talented musicians that were just featured in the song. Angela and Max, welcome to the live stream. How are you guys this evening?
Yeah, good. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for having us.
No problem. What a great performance. It's just impossible for me not to, like, when you hear these songs, just to have that little jazzy bebop. That's pretty much like anyone has passed by me in my edit suite over the past month. This is what I've just been looking like a little bobblehead. So just a great performance. I don't get Angela. Maybe we could start with you if you just kind of want to give a little bit of your background and how you became a singer and got wrapped up with this group.
Yeah, sure. So I started singing at the age of 2 for as long as I can remember. And then I furthered my education. I went to a performing arts high school where I studied classical, but I've always had a love for jazz. And even though I continued my music education in classical during college, I found out this program through Professor Elder. He was one of my professors for musicianship, and I've been with the band ever since.
That's great. What about you, Max? How did you get involved with Professor Elder's group?
Yeah, so somewhat similar background to Angela. I actually started playing piano from a young age, also kind of a classical background through high school. And then I started playing upright bass, also through school and kind of a classical background when I was in about like 5th or 6th grade. And then I came here and I kind of just, I didn't know a ton about jazz at the time, but I tried out for Elder's band, and just that kind of passion was really ignited. It's now basically the main form of music that I do is jazz, and so it's been good. It's been a great time, and Elder's been a big help through that. So
you said you started playing the stand-up bass when you were in 5th or 6th grade. Like, do they have like littler stand-up basses for kids at that age? Like, I can't even imagine a little 5th or 6th grader trying to play that big thing.
Yeah, I mean, they come in smaller size, a half size, and a 3/4 size, and not many people use the bigger
Okay,
ones.
so it's like it's like the basketball rims, like so you can dunk, like when you're when you're littler. That's
Exactly.
That's
I mean, it still looks pretty goofy next to like a small child, but it's not quite as big. It wasn't quite as big as what I got now.
Well, the picture we just showed you, you were using a bow. Do you have a preference, using like the finger pluck for the stand-up bass, or do you prefer using a bow?
I think honestly I prefer the finger pluck now that I've gotten used to it. It's kind of, initially, especially it takes a big toll on like your fingers and like getting calluses and stuff. But kind of once you build that up, I like it a lot more. You feel a lot more connected to the instrument, in my opinion. And also, bowing is more of kind of a classical technique. It gets used in jazz occasionally. I took a shot there in the broadcast. I went for it during that too. But yeah, I'd say overall, much more of a pit scat is what it's called.
Well, we got that picture of you playing. I believe that was during the Thelonious Monk Straight No Chaser. There it is again, which did make the broadcast version. Professor, it seems like you did a great job of kind of making sure that everyone in the ensemble had a chance to showcase all their skills. So I thought it was really cool that you let Max have a little like a bow solo here, but then I believe on another song that made the broadcast, the first minute is him just playing solo, finger plucking. So that's really cool that you were thoughtful enough to make sure that all these different aspects of the performance were carried through for the broadcast.
Well, I try to have people featured, as many people featured in as many different ways as possible, but I also tell them I'm not a mind reader. So if there's something you want to do, or if there's something you want to be featured on, or if there's a particular kind of song you're interested in playing, let me know and I'll see if I can work it in. And I believe that bowing solo was a request, if I'm not mistaken. Was that a request, Max?
Yeah, it was a request. I heard like Paul Chambers do it.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, there are a lot of great jazz bass solos played with the bow, and it's my understanding is it really helps just to do it anyway, just to be connected with intonation and stuff like that. And it just switches things up. You're so used to hearing the pizzicato bass solos and jazz, and all of a sudden somebody breaks out the bow, and it's like, oh, whoa, what's going on here? So it's cool.
Angela, I have to ask, since you're graduating, do you have any future plans to continue in music, or what's next for you?
Yeah, definitely. So I actually reached out to one of my old professors in the city, and I have some jazz gigs lined up. I love my opera background, but through this band, I've just found such a love and passion for jazz music. So I am going to be doing some gigs in Manhattan, hopefully really soon. And I'm going into my master's degree for SLP, speech language pathology, which is obviously completely connected with what I do in the singing world.
That's really neat. Well, and good luck. For have you played down in the city before, or will this be your first time performing gigs down there?
So this is going to be my first time performing jazz gigs. Growing up really close to the city, I've done a lot of musical theater. I've done some classical things, but I'm really just pushing to continue my jazz journey.
And what about you, Max? Are you going to be returning to the jazz band next year?
Yeah, I'm a sophomore, so I still got some time. So that's definitely in the plans. And just to get even more involved, play with more people on campus, jam as much as I can. But definitely, Elder's band's a big part of that.
I always like to ask this to all our performers, like, where I'm sure you all had an idea of what a television recording would be before it happened. So I have to ask, like, what your expectation was versus the reality. I'm assuming that it was probably a lot more boring than you originally thought it might be.
Actually, definitely not. We did the Christmas gig with you guys, and that I think was different just because we didn't have a live audience. But
Yep.
this specific experience was really cool because it just felt like we were in our element, and there was just happened to be cameras, and we got a really good recording after.
For the holiday recordings, we don't usually have a studio audience, and that does open the floor for, like, okay, we can redo songs, and there is definitely a different vibe in the studio. I mean, I think I can attest to that, and the camera operators and all the other people that I work with can kind of attest to that as well. So that's kind of neat that you got to experience both aspects, one with an audience and one without an audience. What about you, Max? Did you have any thoughts about the recording?
Yeah, I mean, I really didn't know what to expect the first time with the Christmas recording, especially just because I was, and that kind of blew away my expectations a lot. Even just getting there and seeing like the full like Christmas set up was honestly more than I was expecting. So that was really cool to see. And then it's always a little weird watching yourself, especially on like TV. But I overall, thought it turned out really well. It was better than I expected for sure.
That's usually my reaction too when I watch myself back. It's better than I expected, which is what I like. Professor, maybe you could talk about the arrangement for Love for Sale. I noticed that in that performance there you only had one horn player. I believe Joshua Clinton was there. So I'm kind of curious, like, what makes you decide on the different arrangements for all your tunes?
Well, I think that a really typical instrumentation for a small jazz combo will often be a rhythm section, one horn, and if there's a vocalist, then the vocalist, or sometimes two horns. So it's kind of like if we're gonna pare things down to like a combo situation, that would be like a kind of a standard combo. So that would be with one part of it. The other part is that this particular arrangement was inspired by Emmett Cohen, who is a really, really well-known modern jazz pianist who has this great series on YouTube called Live from Emmett's Place, where they feature different musicians kind of in a kind of an informal setting, but with a really just great high playing level. And they did an arrangement of that song, Love for Sale. And this is based on that arrangement. And it's the same instrumentation where they had a tenor sax player and a rhythm section with piano and the vocalist. So we kind of modeled it after that in that case.
Well, in contrast to that performance, our next extra song that we're going to play is Afro-Cuban Fantasy from Pancho Sanchez. I'm wondering if maybe you can kind of go into that, because that definitely had a different setup than the one we just saw.
Yeah, it couldn't be more of a contrast. Everything from the style of the song to the types of rhythms employed to the length. You know, Love for Sale is an AABA, standard, kind of a Tin Pan Alley song form. This Afro-Cuban Fantasy is literally like a suite. And yeah, we have timbales, we have an instrument called the shekere, we have somebody playing congas, we have the drum set itself, and horns playing, as a section together, as well as solos, right? So you have like this whole thing going on, and then you have people that get featured in the midst of it. I'll tell you a little something about this arrangement. I actually held on to it. I actually got that arrangement years ago, and I held on to it. And so I was just kind of waiting for the right semester, like the right instrument, the right personnel, the right semester with the right people. And I went, this is it. This is fall 2022 was the when we did it. And I kind of laid it on everybody, and it was a lot. This kind of stuff's a lot of work, just a lot of work, and all sorts of things need to be glued together. The rhythms are not rhythms people are used to playing. I mean, even a lot of aspiring jazz musicians aren't necessarily playing a lot of Latin jazz, and so getting used to a rhythm called the bembe, which is a rhythm often used in Afro-Cuban music. Is it's really a polyrhythm, so I can just if you'd been a fly on a wall in some of those rehearsals, with us like going through these things and breaking them down, and okay, you got your homework, come back next week and let's see how it goes, kind of thing. But it was a blast, and it really came together, and that's one of the most satisfying things about it, is like after all that work, seeing it come to fruition, seeing everybody just nail it, is a beautiful thing.
Well, why don't we show our audience the performance right now? Angela and Max, we're going to bring you guys back a little bit later in the hour, but thanks for joining us. And when we get done with this performance, we will be joined by two other musicians. So let's roll the Afro-Cuban Fantasy. What a performance of Afro-Cuban fantasy here on the Expressions Digital Director's Cut. And I'm happy to be joined by two more members of the Harpur Studio Jazz Band. Let's welcome Lucas Rogan and multi-instrumentalist Liam Knowles to the live stream, as well as Professor Elder. What a performance. I mean, Laurence, looking back at it once again, were you happy with how it turned out?
Very happy with the way it turned out. It's just great to listen back to it. I've heard it several times, and it doesn't disappoint. Everybody plays with so much heart. Once you get past the technique, you want to try and play with some heart and actually make music. And I feel like people really rose to the occasion.
For sure. Liam, welcome to the program. Why don't you tell everyone what you were playing in that song, if you can?
Sure. Thanks for having me. That was the shegere. Nice little rhythm instrument there.
There we go. We got a little picture. So for 9 minutes, you got to put down. Usually you play the baritone saxophone, so you got to put that big heavy thing down and just got to play this little light thing for 9 minutes.
Yeah, deceptively difficult, that one, but a lot of fun.
Lucas, you were playing the timbales on that one, and I have to admit, like you guys are looking at it and you're listening to it. I'm like watching it more, and just due to the fact that the nature of your group, you have a larger group and we only have so much studio space. Looking back at that performance, I'm just so disappointed. We couldn't even see, like, it looked like you were only playing one timbale. You actually had like two that you were beating on. So that's where, like, yes, even in that still photo, like, it just looks like you're playing the one. So that if we go back and, like in 20 years, when we go back and reboot this episode, that's something I would want to improve, like George Lucas style. Maybe we can CGI in that other timbale. But what's it like playing in this group? Obviously, as a percussionist, the professor has you performing a bunch of different instruments. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Normally I'm definitely playing drum set though, and that's been my main focus in the studio jazz band. But it's been really cool exploring Latin jazz, and Professor Elder has definitely really put me onto it. I really love the style of music now, and just all the different instruments that I get to play, the timbales, the congas, and stuff like that. It's really cool.
Well, I'll ask you guys the same question. Like, what expectations did you have for the TV performance, and how did that meet with your reality? Lucas, I do have to commend you. I believe you were the first to arrive at both of the recordings, which I always pay special note of. So very good to be punctual. But I don't know if you want to speak to the expectations versus reality of the recording.
Well, I try to be punctual, but also, I had to arrive early. It takes extra time to set up the drum set and stuff. But I've done my fair share of gigs, and nothing compares to how professional the studio was there. It was by far like the most well-produced show I've ever done. It absolutely like blew my expectations out of the water, I'd say.
Oh, well. Geez, Lucas, you can come back to the program anytime with comments like that. What about you, Liam? How could you compare the performance at our studio to, say, the performance at Atomic Tom's?
It was fantastic. I had no expectation. I had no idea what to expect, I should say. And so, we came in and everything was extremely state of the art. The cameras, kept telling myself not to look in the camera because I know you're not supposed to do that. And then when the recording finally came out, you could hear the Barry, which is insane. That doesn't happen ever. So I was very, very excited about that.
Well, we have to. There's a picture of you with. So that's your main instrument, correct, Liam?
Yes. Yeah, that's my main instrument.
Well, we'll have to give a special shout out to our audio engineer, Mike Micha, who has been doing a lot of the audio recently for Expressions, and he just does a fantastic job. And especially in a group this large, for you to be able to hear individually each instrument. I mean, it just goes to his great work for sure. So what's next for you guys, Liam? I believe you told me you graduated. Are you going to keep playing music, or do you have other ideas for the future?
Yeah, so I do play music still. I volunteer at the hospice unit where I play music for the patients there. But my my dreams and my passion is medicine. I applied to medical school. I'm still waiting to hear back, but that is the goal: is medical school and medicine.
That's great. What about you, Lucas?
So I'll be playing I'm gonna be here next year for one more year, and I'll be playing in the Studio Jazz Band. Just in terms of my music stuff, I'll be doing that, and I also have a small jazz quartet that I like to play with.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Liam, we did see this in the broadcast episode, but it's just such a unique instrument. I think we have to showcase it to our live stream viewers as well. We had never had this instrument on Expressions before, and there's a still photo. It's the electronic wind instrument, or EWI, I believe it's called shorthand. And actually, we are about to hear a live performance from Liam Knowles on the electronic wind instrument here live on the Expressions Digital Director's Cut. Take it away, my friend.
A little something.
Fabulous. Fabulous. You know, you write some original music, and we can have a half-hour Expressions just featuring you on the EWI. What do you think?
That would be amazing.
Well, I think it's time. Our hour is winding down. Obviously, if anyone has any questions from the chat, now is the time to ask them, either to the band or to me, about the program. Let's bring all the members back in. And I do have to ask one question as I edited the program. I have to ask, are Professor Elder's conducting moves, are they ever a distraction for you as you are performing here? I was able to freeze a couple of them here. There's just like the slow, like, hey, okay, that's on you. I don't even know what this next one is. It's like, what's in my hand? Like, you better play the right note, maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's threatening. And this is probably my favorite, the swan dive. And you can almost see Liam in the left-hand corner there, like kind of looking at him, like wondering what the heck is going on. So I have to ask, like, do you ever forget your notes, but just becoming so enthralled with Elder's moves up there?
He makes the band. We can't play right without them. He needs to do that.
Yeah. I will say it does also help the general larger kind of emphasis, just because you are focusing on multiple things. So even if you just see like a cue out of the corner of your eye, that does like genuinely help a lot. But yeah, it's funny.
Well, it makes me think that if we ever bring back the camera, or bring back the group, we're gonna need like just an Elder cam, that's just there on you all the time. But I would be remiss, and I didn't even realize this until this week when I was doing some research for the program. But Professor Elder is a recording artist himself. He released a CD a couple years ago, and I noticed that it's actually been garnering some major attention. Professor, can you talk about your record a little bit? Look at this. Look at Harry Styles, Beyonce, Ed Sheeran, Adele, Laurence Elder. Is this real, Professor? This is great. Congratulations.
I kind of said that first time I saw it too. I guess you've been doing your homework there, Mr. Andy.
Well, that's yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's just it's a real honor. I mean, I've been a singer-songwriter pianist for decades, and I've put out a couple of albums. The most recent one that I put out was Walk Another Mile, which I released in May of 2021. And it's really exceeded my expectations and hopes in terms of, I mean, any one person that the music touches is a gift. And, the fact that it's actually connecting with people and getting attention, actually getting radio play and chart positions, and now actually winning a couple of awards, it's a real honor. It's a real honor. And yeah.
Well, that's great, and I have to read at least one review that I found from your website, and this comes from Adlib Magazine, which I believe is based in Japan. His voice, deep as tarnished silver, seeps right into the soul. I don't know if that's a review or a high cue, Professor, but congratulations. That's high praise indeed.
Yeah, maybe it's both.
We actually do have a question from Ronald, one of our audience members, and he's asking that I'll just open this up to anyone, I guess, who's going to be returning to the group. If you guys could play any one song with the group next year, what would it be?
Good question.
I would love to do like a Wayne Shorter song, especially as he passed recently, kind of out of honor. He's got a bunch of good ones. Aside from that, it'd be really cool to do, there's a lot of old standards that are really fun, like Night in Tunisia, kind of big band stuff would be really cool as well. But yeah, anything with a cool bass part too. I know it's kind of multiple answers, but I'll always sing a cool bass part. I don't know if you with Lucas.
Yeah, what about you, Lucas? Uh-oh. Lucas might have froze.
Yeah.
He's deep in thought, I guess. Well, we're going to have technical problems. Oh, he's back.
Oh, he's back.
Sorry.
Lucas, we had a question from the audience. If you could play any one song with the group next year, what would it be?
Yeah, I was able to think about it while I was reconnecting. I want to play this song called Liberia by Pancho Sanchez. He's one of the artists who we just listened to.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
he got it out there. I think we're having a little problem with Lucas's connection, so I apologize for that. But at least he got the song title out, Professor. Any chance maybe we could see these requests worked into your set list next year?
I wrote them down.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Well, we're about to wrap up. Does anyone have anything to plug they want to talk about? Angela, where could people find out where maybe you'll be performing in New York City? I don't know if they can follow your socials or anything like that, but that's really exciting.
Yeah, sure. I have a page that I'm actually working on right now. It's Angela Giannina, so Gianina. That's my music account on Instagram. I just took everything down, so I swear it's not it's empty for now, but I'm gonna start posting more on it. But also we're gonna continue posting on our Binghamton page. It's Bing Studio Jazz is our Instagram account. So anything that any of the band members send our way, we're going to be posting on there. So, yeah.
That's really cool. Yep, you can search for that on Instagram, and that is the account for the Harpur Studio Jazz Band. Anyone else have any gigs this summer that they want to talk about? Not yet, but I'm sure it will come. Well, I can't thank you enough. Obviously, Professor, you've done a great job with this group, and I can only imagine that the success will continue in the future for this group and for you personally. I can't thank you guys enough for the performance and for joining us this evening. And I wish you all the best and hope to work with you all again very soon. Have a great summer.
Thanks very much for having us. This was
no problem.
A lot of fun. Yeah.
Come back anytime. And, of course, a reminder that you can watch the Full Expressions episode featuring the Harpur Studio Jazz Band by visiting wskg.org/expressions, and a link is being provided in the chat box. And if you listen to podcasts, then check out the Expressions Director's Cut podcast, the only place where you can listen to the ensemble's entire set from start to finish. And again, look for a link in the chat box or subscribe on your favorite podcast platforms. I want to thank Alyssa Micha and Patrick Holmes for their behind-the-scenes help this evening, and we will be back soon with another behind-the-scenes look at a great Expressions episode. Until then, this is Andy Piak. Good night.
Funding for this program is provided in part by the New York State Education Department.